the one thing that could be a new thing that comes from it all is like if we actually start using these blockchain platforms to create the transparency that doesn't exist at the moment, right? So the biggest example of this was 2021 and the whole Robinhood phenomenon, right? Where the issue was is there was like more assets, more of the stock was sold short than existed, I believe was the problem.
This was
Yeah,
GameStop?
GameStop, the GameStop Robinhood phenomenon where they ended up like halting trading because
Do you think that was yeah, that was sorry to
yeah.
cut you off. That shit was crazy because that was the first time and we actually wanna do a full episode on the whole growth of meme stocks and where GameStop is and all that stuff, but this was the first time we should explain that for people who didn't understand what was going on. So, that got discovered by some Reddit community. It was called something value.
Oh,
What
I
was it
don't
called
know. I
again?
just thought it was Wall Street Bets.
Wall Street Bets, that's what
Okay.
it was. That's what it was. I think it was. But there was people in there. One of the guys' name was like Insane Value or something like that. And then Roaring Kitty, I think, was the main guy. But basically, this was this community of solo investors that saw that these massive institutions were just shorting, which is betting on the failure of GameStop, right? And there's also speaking to these instruments that these massive financial institutions do is crazy. Like I'm sure that you've noticed that a lot of major restaurant chains have been getting acquired by these funds, right? And then they essentially conspire to how do I say this correctly? I also don't want to misspeak, but basically people benefit on the failure of things because they bet on it going down along the way. And so they essentially purposely tank something to then make money on both sides. And so that's it's a slippery slope. It's very much a mess in a lot of things. And there's so many angles to this. But for GameStop, they saw that these companies were betting on the fact that it was going down. And so for that to happen, the stock actually has to go down for it to come through and for them to win money, right? And so when a short squeeze takes place is when enough people have bet that it's going to go down, eventually they have to pay up if the bet doesn't hit, more or less. And because people kept buying and acquiring more GameStop, it was squeezing them. So the price was just going up and up and up until someone was willing to sell. And so theoretically, it could have gone up forever if people weren't willing to sell. And then they stopped the trading. So then it came crashing back down, basically. I'm sure I missed a ton of that. Keep
Yeah.
going.
And I think the most important thing to understand about the squeeze is that, for instance, I'm short the asset. And so as the price goes up, eventually I need to close my position because I'm
Yes.
going further and further in the red as the position goes up. And so
Yeah.
that means that I
Yes.
need to buy back what I have now sold short. And so that buying
Yes.
back that I have to do is, and that continues to happen as the price goes higher because more and more people are going to have to buy back because their pockets aren't deep enough. You also now
Hmm.
create this cascading effect of the price going higher because now I have to buy, all these people are having to buy back. And that's called a short
Exactly.
squeeze.
Yes, exactly, 100%, and that was GameStop was really one of the first ones that really did that, and there was the whole Robinhood thing, which made me think of that. So what was your point, more on
Yeah.
Robinhood?
So one of the biggest issues that ended up happening here was that there was more shares being sold short than what actually existed in the first place. And so that's why they had to
Wow.
stop all of the trading because they were like, oh, there's some funny business happening here. And so when that occurred, my immediate thing, and anyone who was in blockchain at the time was like, oh, well, first off, stopping trading does not exist in our world. You can't do that in the decentralized world. And the second
Mhm.
thing is well, if we had had this information on chain, then you wouldn't have been able to go short anymore. There would have been like a smart contract that said, nope, you can't do that. And so the point was just that like there's an opportunity. There's a lot of things that can go wrong with all this, and I'm sure the things that can go wrong with blockchain and distributed ledger technology will go wrong. But there's also some opportunities to plug some of those holes in the systems that we have today. So it's just something to think about as well. Is creating that greater level of transparency could fix some of the issues. We'll just have new ones.
Yeah, of course, you don't solve problems, you trade them, and I will say 2 things that came to mind. One was, again, referencing the interview with Tom Lee and Pomp, where he basically had said where the prediction markets have become a very big thing, like Polymarket, Kalshi, whatever. And then he basically was like, "Okay, so then where does the line get created for, say, like insider trading or insider information? Like, at what point is it legal or illegal?" And then he basically said that it'd be pretty easy to track if it was an insider, if it's done in a blockchain capacity. It'd be very easy to find if they did that and penalize them accordingly. And if you weren't breaking any rules and you can prove that, like it wouldn't matter if like the authorities knew who you were, you wouldn't really care unless you were doing something shady, which is a big thing. And I think why people really gravitated towards the GameStop thing, and it really ushered in, I would say, a big shift in terms of us all waking up in terms of how rigged these games are. Like, I think for me, that was the one where I always knew it kind of, but that really got me asking questions where I was like, "Oh my god, you guys are like the bullies that took away the ball because you were losing."
Mm. Mm.
You know what I mean? It's like you played the younger kids, you're losing the game now, you're finally getting like losing, and then instead you say, "Oh, I'm going home and I'm taking the ball with me." Like that's what that felt like to me. And I think that really woke a lot of people up. And that's really started the culture of, I think, meme stocks in general. And then that spilled over into meme coins because they saw that if we rallied together, we had more power as a unit than we do independently. And so, yeah, we're going to do a meme stocks and a meme coin episode in the future because I love that shit because that's pure psychology.
Yes, yes, it's a lot of fun for sure. And I remember just in that moment, like to me and a lot of people, I'm sure, it was like this is the obvious turning point for our generation on like looking at, oh, this needs to be this is actually a real problem. Like we actually can use blockchain to solve these issues.